Hey guys and girls, how you going? Of course, Mark Hummer here, and we're going to talk a little bit about accessories today, if you don't mind. I got some bits and pieces that I've recently acquired, purchased them myself. Again, I'm not subsidised by any organisation, company or brand. I just buy what I buy because I like it, and if I find it and review is good, I'm going to promote it. And today what we've got is an example about batteries. That's what we're talking about mostly today for the most part, and it's all about the convenience of photography. Every camera comes with a little Nikon battery. If you've got a Nikon, a Sony, a Canon, they come with a battery, and you can get quite a few shoots out of them, a bit of video time, but what will happen is eventually it'll run out of power halfway through whatever you're doing in the day, and you'll need to put another one in, and then maybe another one in again, and then perhaps another one again. And if you've got a lot of batteries, that's not a big deal. Of course, it's quite doable, but particularly if you're doing a lot of video, you're doing time-lapse, etc., you're going back and forth between photos and videos, the battery drain can really sneak up on you, and before you know it, it's down to the last bar and you're struggling a bit. And that can be very inconvenient when you're halfway through a long take of video. Then what are you going to do? So there are multiple options. So yes, what you can do is, like I've got here to illustrate, you can have a plethora of batteries. I got 4 there, got 1 in each camera that I have, 1 in the filming camera, 1 in this camera in front of me. So that's 6 batteries I own. I have another one I've ordered on the way. I'm picking up tomorrow night from the post office. So I'll have 7 batteries. So I'm not shy of batteries. That's not what I'm suggesting. But what I'm suggesting is, rather than carry a whole lot of independent batteries around with you, and they sometimes, you're forgetting to charge them, and you go put them in and they're as bad as the battery you've just taken out. That can be a bit embarrassing and a drain on you. But what I'm going to recommend today is really various options we have with adding battery power to your camera. Now, of course, Nikon provide various options, of course, and every camera brand does, whether it be Sony or Canon or Fuji. They often have battery grips. See, Nikon have 2 for the Z series. They have a battery pack, as it were, and then they have actually the battery pack with all the buttons and accessories on it, so that you can take, portrait and landscape photos as you wish, comfortably holding the camera. Now, personally, I don't need the battery pack for that reason. A is I have plenty of batteries handy, but secondly, I have this grip on the side here which I use, and I actually find this quite comfortable to hold and use, and I can't see myself ever using or wanting the grip, particularly because of the bulk that it adds to the base of the camera, which is very annoying when you go to pack it into a camera bag and the camera seems twice the volume that it was. So just the sheer volume of that really puts me off. And of course the ergonomics of it, I just don't really find I need it. I've been shooting quite comfortably with a standard camera, DSLR or mirrorless, and having no issue taking photos, portrait or landscape in my hands. So it's just, for me personally, my use scenario is I don't really want the battery grip, I don't want the bulk. But what I would like is the more battery power. So the idea of having extra batteries in the camera, or the boosted battery power, I'm all for that. I think that's a great idea, because many a time I had run low on battery power at the most inconvenient time. So you can have all these spare batteries with you all you like, but if you're in the middle of taking a video, you don't want to have to pause that video just to chuck a battery in it. That's really annoying. So what scope or options do you have? Well, as mentioned, you can use the battery packs, and that's a great option if that's your cup of tea, if you like the extra bulk on the camera. But for me, I've found a few other options that I think are quite interesting, and I'd like to talk you through them. Now, the main thing I've found that's really, really cool and so versatile is actually buying yourself what would be a laptop computer battery pack. So these battery packs here, they're quite enormous. I mean, you compare them to a standard Nikon battery, for example, you can see that they're much, much bigger, probably 4 or 5 times the size and weight. But the advantage of these is, of course, not only are they much bigger, but they last so much longer. So whereas this here has 2,500 amp hours, this one here has 25,000, 10 times the power it will last. So it's like carrying 10 of these batteries around with you, just having one of these spare. Now that's all very well, but how do you plug that into your camera? Well, you can't just without an accessory. You're going to need a cable. And the cables that are required, I'll give you a few examples just to show you. Here's a very little short one. It's probably no more than a foot long, or 12 inches or so. And this one here this is the very important part. Notice it is USB-C to USB-C. So in comparison, if I show you one of the more traditional cables that you may be familiar with, it'll have a USB port, a standard like computer one, and then it'll have the USB-C. So you can plug it into a battery pack, even for example this one, which has the facilities for that. So sure, you can plug it in and then plug it into your camera. You know what the problem with that is though? It doesn't work. See, the Nikon cameras are not geared up to function with the standard USB connection. So this sort of a terminal here is actually useless for you if you're wanting a battery pack. It's okay for downloading your images. It's okay for, uploading stuff from the computer, but it's absolutely no use for the charging, the battery power of your camera. So they're not useless, but they're not for this application. For this particular application, you must have a battery pack that has USB-C ports. That is the same port that's in the top of your Nikon camera for powering and for USB connection. So USB-C must go into the charger, and then the USB-C port goes into your camera, just at the top there. There we go. Plug that in. And this will actually charge the battery, so it'll keep the battery topped up and charged, but at the same time run the camera for an indefinite amount of time. When I say indefinite amount of time, I'm talking 3 days. So it'll just never run out, because as I said, it's like having 10 of these batteries. So it's just going to last continually. Plus you also have the battery, the Z battery in the camera that you need to run the camera. That's got to be in there for it to operate. So it will not operate without the battery in the camera, but that's just to keep the cycle going, if you like. But it also means that you've got, when this even runs out, should this ever run out, you've still got the full charge battery in there. So what a dream scenario. So rather than having a grip where you'll have the equivalent of 2 batteries, now with this battery pack, I can now have the equivalent of 11 batteries. Man, you're never going to run out of power, which is fantastic when you're swapping between photos and videos as mentioned, and particularly when you're doing a lot of time lapses and etc. So this is the solution I've gone with, and you'll look at it initially and you think to yourself, oh well, that's all very well, but how on earth am I going to carry that around with me? It's not like it actually bolts to the camera, does it? Well no, that's not the option I'm running here. Now this short cable I was using just as illustrative purposes. The one I actually use is this one here. It's 2 meters long. I purchased it specifically, and I'm going to suggest that when you purchase cabling, you can either get 2 of them, which is not a bad idea. So you might get one that's, again, I just noticed this to you, I bring it at your attention, it's USB-C to USB-C. That's a very important factor. The other factor is you want to get the highest quality cable you can. Because you're transferring a lot of power to a very high drain apparatus, the last thing you want is some cheap, flimsy, $5 knockoff cable. It's just not going to have the flow to give the current to your camera. So I'm going to encourage you to get the highest quality cable you can. Even the one that may come with the charger, that might be a backup or a spare. Go buy independently the best quality one you can. Now these ones here cost me about $35 just for this one cable, 2 meters long. But it's an excellent investment because A, it's super tough, the connections are very high quality and I know it will last, but secondly with the extra meters of length, the 2 meters, I can utilize it in many applications. So let me just run you through how I get this charger and battery to the camera and actually be functional. And in order to do that, I'm going to have to stand up, of course, and demonstrate the various options you got. But before I stand up, while I'm here and I'm comfortable, I just want to talk to you. We're talking about batteries, right? So let me just illustrate that I do take batteries seriously. So when I go down the street and I go buy batteries for my speed lights, etc., I don't buy a pack of 6. I'm buying them in lots of 50. And here we've got almost 100 batteries, and that's how I buy them in lots. So I do take seriously purchasing batteries in bulk supply, because I hate running out and I hate the embarrassment of getting halfway through a job and you've not got the spare batteries on hand to access for yourself to keep the job going. Batteries again we're talking about, I'll just illustrate this here. I use a lot of Sony batteries for my LED light systems, and also great for monitors and various other things because they're quite universal. But again, if I can just show you in this bag here, when I buy batteries, I have 17 largest batteries for Sony that are available, plus I have a plethora of these little ones just as backup and for lightweight applications. So when I buy batteries, I'm buying a lot of batteries. I don't just buy 1 or 3. So I'm encouraging someone to take seriously very much keeping their stuff charged, and that's the application here. Never ever having to worry about your camera running out of power. So I'm going to just pause the video for a sec, I'll stand up and then I'll start demonstrating how we get it all together and make it practical. So hey guys, how you going? We're back again. We're standing up position now so you can see what's going on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put some bags and straps and accessories together here for you to demonstrate how I can use this battery pack and make it actually practical and a decent application with the camera. So firstly what I'd like to talk about is the most simple and common way you can transport that battery around and still find your camera very useful is a simple little bum bag here. So it's a little body pack. And what you can do here is to simply put all this together. What we're going to do is just plug in one end into your battery pack. Make sure you turn it on. Now it's got to be actually on and illuminated so you know it's working. You place it into your little bag here. What I'm going to do is just wind the cable up a little bit stick it in the camera bag, zip that up, and there we have. I've got a way of transporting that battery around now. I've got this right way around, I've got to twist it, here we go. Alright, so there we go. So you've got it all put together, comfortable, it's turned on. Plug it into your camera, into USB-C. I have a little bit of Velcro style tape here, which I find very handy in the application of fastening that strap to the little small rig handle, and that way it's secured. It's not going to pop out when you least want it to. It's an option. I'm not saying you have to use that, but I just found that securely. And here we go. We can take photos all day long, and I'm going to have endless power. So I think that's a pretty good idea. It's quite comfortable. This would work in very well in harmony with your cotton carrier rig, where you can just hold the camera there like that, and there's no uncomfortableness. Of course, if you want to simply use a basic camera strap as well to support your camera, well, I'd advise that, because I'd never really consider that it's a good idea to hold your camera for any vast lengths of time because of the risk of ever dropping it. So this is how it'll actually function anyway. You can see here you've got the little body, little bum bag here that supports that. Of course, you've got other pouches and these things for your keys and your phone and whatever other accessories you want to take, but I can tell you what you don't have to take with this system, and that is spare batteries. So yeah, this is a great option, I think, to have permanent power all day and not worry about it, particularly if you're doing quite a lot of video. And you might be using something like, and excuse me while I get this out, a racket. Here we go. There we go. If you're using like a stabilizer, as one of these Ronins is, and you're filming a lot, imagine how great it is as far as power goes, because not only do you have power here, but you can actually have a second cable out, because it has 3 ports for USB power, and you could be powering your Ronin as well and have that running all day and permanently charged, because this runs on a USB-C charge as well. So how convenient is that? You can have these two together, running 2 power cables in your hip, like this little bum bag, and have endless power all day and never worry about them running out. So that was a good backup option you can have with this battery pack. So I'm just going to put this down carefully so I don't destroy it. I'm excellent at dropping things off tables, so I've got to be a little bit careful. But this was one option, all right? So we have one option here, which was the little bum bag, and I think they're a great little idea. I use this quite a lot with photography, just for the fact of being able to carry accessories with you without dragging your pockets down, because I find that really uncomfortable. So I'm not loving it when my pockets are loaded with wallets and phones and keys and whatever else, and it's just very uncomfortable. The second option we can do is, well, I'm talking about common accessories, is a simple camera bag. Now here we have basically just a very small camera bag. I'm going to just attach a strap to it, because obviously there's no other way of fastening it at the moment to yourself. So I put the little strap on, just try and de-twistify it as much as humanly possible. There we go. So you would have your camera bag on you. Let me just see if I can adjust this up so you guys can actually see what's going on. It'll take a few seconds. Just wanted it at a height so you can actually see. Okay, not necessarily how I'd be wearing it and that high up, but it's certainly good for the video anyway. You can see what's going on. And so what's the option here? Well, it's the same as the bum bag, really. All you have to do is find a little secure little compartment to put it in. Could be here, could be in the body of the camera bag itself. It's really not important. What's the only important thing is you make sure it's just not going to fall out anywhere. So you zip that down. You can even lock this over. But once you've got all your goods in your camera bag, and here you can have a few spare lenses now as well as your keys and wallet and everything else, and you've got some accessories going on. And while that's running, you've got permanent power to your camera in your hand all the time, never going to run out of battery. And again, if you're using like the Ronin as well, this still works. Just bring it around behind you so it's not in the way of your operation when you're using your stabilizer if you're doing a lot of video. And of course this can still work if you're using a tripod. You can have a tripod here, mount the camera to the tripod, and it can be either with you if you need that, because you want to grab the tripod and maybe move it somewhere else, and it's the safest way of transporting it with cables. Or if you don't want to use that way, all you have to do is flip this off and hang it on the tripod, because most tripods have a little clip at the base of the stem of the tripod, and then or light stand, and you can use the camera as basically a weight as well as some support for the battery and the camera gear. So that's another option. So there is one final option I'm going to show you that is really, it's my thing, it's my little custom rig. So just let me get to this. I'll just pull this out so I can actually utilize it. So get that battery out. There we go. And the last but not least option, which I think is a great option here, is I've utilised an old Aperture Araman little pack here. Now I think this is for a small LED light. It was probably let's have a think what it would be, Aperture Araman, I think a 98 they call them, 98 little LEDs. And they come in these little soft bags, almost like a little mini camera bag if you like. And I've utilised these for tons of different things. They're great for storing even just one big lens. You know, if you've got a 85mm prime or something, you can store it in that. It's super well padded, you can throw it in your big camera bag and it can rattle around, doesn't really matter. Nothing's going to get broken. But what I'm using it for in this application is actually for the battery pack. Now what you might notice I've done is just for a little customization, I've cut out a little slot and then sealed it with some liquid rubber. It's called Sikaflex. It's a automotive adhesive sealant. It's made of rubber and adhesive. So that seals up that hole that I just cut out there, that little slot. Well, I did the same little slot on the top here to match it, so that when all this comes together and it shuts and you zip it up, you've got a hole for your cable to come out. So let me just illustrate how that works. Now you'll notice in this bag particularly it just happens to have a little pocket very conveniently. Don't need to use the pocket necessarily, but I'm going to because it's very convenient for what I'm trying to do. So I'm just going to try and get this in here without making a fool of myself as I normally do. There we go, look at that, it's a perfect snug little fit. See how it holds it in there nice and sturdy? And we're talking about camera bags and accessories. If you want to put now your wallet, your keys and stuff in there, sunglasses, you could, because you've still got a little compartment that is separated and padded. So I really like these little bags. I tell you, for this Araman stuff, for Aperture Araman, highly recommend their LED lights and equipment because the accessories alone are amazing. This bag I use for batteries, for example, this is an Aperture brand one too, came with a larger light system. So again, these bags I just utilise for whatever I want and I reckon they're fantastic. So I highly encourage you to buy the brand Aperture because of just for the accessories they give you alone, plus the high quality products they have. It's fantastic. Now as you can see, this is a very light little system here, and of course has a little buckle, and it would be nothing to put that onto your pants buckle, or again using the camera strap idea where you can just strap it over your shoulder and you're just wearing that bag. You know, and it's very lightweight and very comfortable. It even has in this bag, which I thought was, again, it's a brilliant design for this, a little belt strap. So you can actually feed your belt through that and hold it there very firmly and tight. So there's some options, you know, I just thought you'd like to see them. That now I've thought this through a little bit to see how I can take most advantage of this. And being able to have this battery pack and last all day, I think it's a great option and a lot more practical for me than the big bulky grip anyway. You might say, oh, this is bulky, but this is bulky and useful. See, all the facility and room you have in that, you have other accessories in there. But your battery grip, it's full of batteries, there's nothing else you can do with it. It's just a big bulky item that does almost very little, except give you one more battery power. Whoopie-doo. It's going to last you an extra hour. This battery pack here is going to last you like 3 days. So this is where I'm thinking the future is headed. It is for me anyway. I hope you found this interesting. I don't want to bore you too long on something as simple as batteries, but I did thought that was an interesting tip and technique that you can utilise. Now as far as the cables go, I have illustrated to you how important I believe it is for high quality cable. And as far as the actual battery pack itself goes, I happen to have one here called Comsol. So it's a Comsol brand one. It's not really important what brand it is. I don't mind what brand you buy, but buy the best one you possibly can anyway, and certainly buy the biggest one you can. It's no use buying something like this and you buy a little tiny like toy one. You've got to buy the biggest one they got. This is a 25,000 amp hour, which as I said is 10 times the strength of one of these. The other advantage of something big like this is you can power your laptop with it. So if you're bringing a laptop around, it will actually power and charge that as well. Other accessories, like I mentioned, the Ronin, you can charge that as well. So you've always got charging power, and also even something like this microphone. Now I'm using this beautiful Aperture microphone with the receiver, sender and recorder, and you can charge all that with a USB-C port and this charger. So you can charge and run your camera, your accessories, you can charge your phone, you can charge whatever accessories you've got, you're going to be able to power them because you'll never run out of power. So there's a great idea. I think for I think it cost me about $200 with the battery pack and the quality cable that I purchased as a kit, about $200. But you know those battery grips you buy? Minimum $350 for the boring plain one that has no buttons, and if you want to buy the ones with buttons, it's about $500 plus Australian. So $500 versus $200, and you're getting 5 times the battery power. That was a no-brainer for me. I know which way I'm going anyway.